Welcome, MHA owners, to another Mile High Affiliates podcast. Eric Lansing here with you. We're going to talk about quarterbacks on this show, the most important position, maybe the most important position, probably should be based on how many points they score in our league. But we're going to talk a lot about the position. Of course, joining me is Mikey Renaud, Todd Diamond. We tried to get Aaron on the podcast, tried to get Alan on the podcast, but everybody's busy. So it's just us three usual suspects. How's everyone doing tonight?
Word. Doing great.
Word.
Word.
I think that's how word is used in that context.
You know, hey, I'm a very unique individual.
I'm sure all the owners think so.
Exactly, but I'm a very unique individual with 2 championships. So
it's right off the bat.
Hey, let's get this podcast.
I'm surprised you didn't say 2-time champ and runner up.
Ooh.
I wasn't saying that as a dig, per se. I'm just saying, he finished better than us, right, last year, so I figured you'd throw that in there as well. Mikey, how you doing? Did you enjoy your dinner?
Yeah, dinner was great.
How about your soda? We're trying the much ballyhooed orange vanilla Coca-Cola.
I'm still undecided.
Still not sure. He says the flavors are fighting one another. The orange and vanilla are going toe-to-toe with the Coke flavor.
Who would you pick in the fantasy?
Who would you pick? We'll put a poll out. Is it orange or is it vanilla? What would you rather have? Probably the vanilla. I really like vanilla Coke.
I would go with the orange.
You prefer the orange?
Yeah.
All right. Todd, you're the tiebreaker.
I go vanilla.
You're a plain Coke type of guy, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you are.
I
think that's a good option.
A little bit of cherry Coke, too.
Right.
But I always say just sprinkle a little bit of cherry Coke in there.
Just
get
cherry.
the little,
Do you want an actual cherry in there?
Sometimes I do that.
Okay.
Sometimes I do
that. Sounds like it's a Vegas thing. Todd's a big Vegas goer.
I saw some things. All right.
We'll save that for a different podcast. So as we mentioned, we're going to talk about quarterbacks. So before we start this, Mikey, give me a quarterback you're excited to talk about on the show. There's a lot of good ones.
Yeah, it's one I'm sure we're going to talk about. Carson Wentz. Baby.
Carson Wentz. Yeah. Well, we have our rankings, and so we'll talk about our rankings dispute. And Carson Wentz is definitely on that trade. Todd, who are you excited to talk about?
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen.
Yeah. I said it.
There you go. If you wanted some Josh Allen talk, you're going to get it here on the MHA podcast. I'm excited to talk about Russell Wilson. Seems to be a lot of debate on where he's supposed to be and where he's going to finish and what his team's going to look like. And so Russell Wilson finished first in our league 2 years ago. So that should be interesting. So let's get into some news and notes. And there's a lot of it. There's so much going on. We're not going to talk a lot about them. If you guys want to say something as I go through here, we'll talk about it. I'm going to go from probably the least important to the most important. And the least important starts with Jermaine Kearse signing a 1-year deal with the Lions. Anyone interested? Anyone excited about Jermaine Kearse?
No, and it's
Not
the Lions too. So
yeah.
No.
So next, how about Buck Allen to the Saints on a 1-year deal? Buck Allen, you guys, someone's got to take the Mark Ingram shoes.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know.
Yeah, he could turn out.
I feel like we mentioned Buck Allen last year and he didn't bounce much either. So let me skip around here. How about Chad Kelly suspended 2 games for his October arrest? And that's only just because it's Bronco news. And it happened not too far from where we live currently.
Let's be real for a second.
Let's be real. I'm excited to be real today.
If Frank Reich wasn't the coach of the Colts, Jim Kelly's old backup, does this ever happen?
Probably not.
That's because we all.
But he's still young.
That's true.
And he's cheap.
Yeah. Because we all know what happened when Chad Kelly got drafted on that infamous day. John Elway called Jim Kelly and said, "Hey, listen, can we draft him?" And they did, but that didn't really work out very much. So that was probably another phone call. Like, come on, let's give the kid a break. He's an idiot, but
he's young and he's an idiot, but probably not fantasy worthy.
Yeah,
I just thought it was interesting to talk about. How about Terrell Pryor? Remember him? Remember when he had a good half of a season?
Yeah.
Signed a 1-year deal with the Jags. They need help, right, at wide receiver? Or are you guys convinced D.D. Westbrook is going to be the number 1?
Well, D.D. Westbrook will be their slot for sure.
Okay. Well, Terrell Pryor.
He had a good one season. Now, I will say this. So the new offensive coordinator for the Jags is John DeFilippo, and he's been with Pryor twice.
Okay, so
in
he's
Oakland
familiar with the offense.
And in Cleveland. So, yeah, he's familiar.
There you go. So a little bit of tidbit on Terrell Pryor. We'll see how everything goes in the preseason. How about Texans running back Deonta Foreman says he's back to full speed after he tore his Achilles 2 years ago. Didn't play at all last year. How much do we have to keep an eye on him this season with Lamar Miller still, at least currently, in the number one spot? You guys interested in Foreman?
I mean, more of a handcuff. I mean, I think because I had Miller, and I know they watched his carries and everything, but I mean, obviously late rounder. Obviously, I mean,
Mikey says no.
No
I think
interest.
that's amazing to me.
I think that people don't realize how hard, especially for a running back, it is to come back from an Achilles injury. Like, that's an injury where you lose all of your explosiveness. So, like, these are the last three guys that have had Achilles injuries. So you have Arian Foster.
Okay.
And after he had his Achilles injury, only played 8 more games in his career. Averaged under 3 yards a carry. Rashard Mendenhall, after his, played 1 more season in the NFL, averaged 3.2 yards a carry. And then the latest was Brandon Oliver. Played 1 more season, 2.4 yards a carry. No.
I love that homework. But the problem with your theory is that those are all running backs that have been in the league for a little while. Where Foreman's been around only a couple years. He's really young.
It's not about that. It's about the injury itself.
Okay.
And what it does to you. Yeah,
but it's Lamar Miller. How much explosiveness does Lamar Miller have?
yeah.
He doesn't.
That's what I'm saying.
But-
so Foreman could come in, still not be the half the man he was last year, and still beat him for the number one job.
No, Lamar Miller's just consistent.
Yeah. I'll agree with Mikey on that one.
All right. So there you go. Not a lot of love for Deonta Foreman. How about Cam Newton is throwing again for the first time since his shoulder surgery? Now, Cam Newton finished high in our quarterback point system ranking in the past. Didn't have a good year last year, but a lot of that could be due to the shoulder problem that he had. But does it bother you that he's just throwing now? Or do you have no concerns about what Cam Newton? And we'll talk more in depth about where we like him in the rankings, but in terms of him throwing so late, does that bother you guys at all?
No, just
Nope.
because I think that the Panthers are gonna, they're gonna be patient with him regardless. I think that was more of, maybe if he was ready, maybe a little bit ahead of schedule. I think the Panthers still would have said, no, you're not going to throw yet. You're gonna let it heal because again, the Panthers they've been dealing with this since he came in the league with major injuries, and obviously he's had to put a lot of the load on himself, obviously. So I think the Panthers were going to be patient regardless whether he was ready or not.
Yeah, not concerning me. The Colts didn't have Andrew Luck start throwing until training camp last year. So, yeah, it's not real. And look what he did.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's not concerning to me.
Yep.
All right, so going down more news here. Seattle running back Chris Carson had a little work done on his knee not too long ago. Any concerns on Chris Carson?
Yes, given his history of injuries, and yes, given the way that he plays, that physical nature. He's more of a pound it, look for contact type of guy.
Yeah, for sure.
And, he did tie for the league lead in broken tackles last year with 45.
Good stat.
So, yeah, it's a little concerning, but they haven't really said what it is. So it could be just like a simple
Could be a
cleanup.
little scope.
Yeah. So, yeah.
He is got to be the number one, right?
I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
For sure, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
But
they drafted that rookie pretty high.
Well, I mean, they said that Rashad Penny, they said that has lost some weight too, but
So,
no, Carson should be the number one.
all right.
Well, unless Penny just has kind of has that, puts that chip on his shoulder and has a great preseason, because we've seen the preseason. It only takes like maybe 1 or 2 games to kind of change the tide a little bit. So just wait and see. Kind of just see how the preseason goes.
Okay, so we have 2 more news and notes of mention here. Damian Williams named the starter running back for the Chiefs. Only surprising, I think there was a lot of talk about whether they were going to bring someone else in. Maybe didn't think that Damian Williams had what it takes, but I thought he was an incredible running back for them. Showed a lot. I mean, I don't think this is breaking news by any stretch, but at least it's good to hear that they're going to you're the starter, it's your job to lose. Do we feel like, we'll talk about running back rankings another time, but we feel pretty good about what he's going to do in that offense, right?
Oh, I'm already, I'll say it now. You can mark it. I'm already going to draft him somewhere in whatever round I feel, maybe like I'd maybe say like the 6th or 7th round.
Oh, he's not going that far.
No
my
way.
friend.
No way.
No.
Like I think he's 3rd round, 2nd round, possibly.
Yeah, I would even say late 2nd round.
Round.
Yeah, I mean, running backs in Andy Reid's systems is just fantasy
Yeah.
gold mine. Sign me up there, man. The dude averaged, 19.5 points per game in his 4 regular season
That's
starts.
unreal.
And then the playoffs averaged 24.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. No, he should be 2nd, 3rd rounder.
Can we give Mikey a gold star for homework today? You got a lot of good stats today. I'm proud of you. All right, and the last thing, and I'm so disappointed to hear this, especially since we're going to talk about quarterbacks, but Andrew Luck is hurt again. Again! This man cannot avoid the injury bug. He's dealing with a calf injury that could keep him out the entire OTAs for the 3rd straight season. We're going to talk about where we have him ranked. Does it move him? Does it move it down? Move Luck down your rankings at all?
Listen,
Come on, Mikey.
we're talking about practice.
Oh, God.
We're talking about practice.
There's a
Okay?
reason why they have practice, Mikey. Because it's
OTAs.
beneficial.
OTAs.
Would you prefer the Broncos and them just having field days as opposed to practice?
Look,
That's a different subject.
These
but-
guys are veterans. Luck's going to be fine. He didn't participate in OTAs last year either.
Mm.
So, yeah, no worries here. He'll get over it
worries.
by the time training camp starts. He'll be fine.
You got to just watch it. I mean, you better not play any preseason games. That's all I'm saying, because if he gets hurt, then it's going to be the same. It's going to be the same old story over and over.
That's the problem with calf injuries. That could be. They're not as bad as hamstrings, but they're injuries that can linger.
Yeah, but Andrew Luck's had every injury known to man at this point in his career.
Let me ask you something. Does his arm still work?
No, but a big part of his game is running around.
Yeah, because obviously they fixed his offensive line, obviously at least now. With Nelson and Kelly, so that's definitely helped. But yeah, he still needs to be somewhat mobile. I mean, that's his shtick.
So no worries. Everybody's okay with Andrew Luck. All right, so let's move on. So that's the news and notes. You guys ready for some MHA trivia?
Yay.
All right, Brain. You don't like me and I don't like you. But let's just do this and I can get back to killing you with beer. It's a deal.
Ready?
Ready.
This actually has to involve MHA just because of the point system.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you guys. Oh, Mikey, looking through my sheet of paper. Try cheat. Mikey, been known to cheat. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so I'm going to have you guys name the top 5 quarterbacks from our league last year in terms of pass attempts. Now, pass attempts are important. Pass attempts is where you get completions, and obviously that's the big thing. The big shtick about our league is you get a point per completion. Quarterbacks off the charts. It'll be interesting to talk about the point system from last year to 2017. But in terms of attempts last year, can you guys name the top 5? Now we'll go back and forth, and I'll give you a point for each one you name. And so you can just name. It doesn't have to be in order.
Okay.
You just have to name someone in the top 5. Todd, I'll let you go first.
Kirk Cousins.
That is correct. Kirk Cousins was 4th with 606. Mikey, name someone in the top 5 in pass attempts.
I'm going to say Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan is correct. He's 3rd with 608. Back to you, Todd Diamond.
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers is correct. You guys are killing it right now. He was 5th with 597. Back to Mikey Renault. He's down 2-1.
Say Patrick Mahomes.
That is incorrect. And Patrick Mahomes was actually 7th. Go figure that. 580 pass attempts. Todd, you can win the game by getting one of these 2 names.
Drew Brees.
And that is incorrect. In fact, I don't have his number. I'll have to look that up. But he's not in the top 5. He's not 6th. So I was surprised to see Case Keenum was actually 6th in pass attempts with 586.
Okay.
Yeesh. All right, back to Mikey.
I'll say Big Ben.
That is correct. In fact, he is the number 1 in terms of pass attempts with the Steelers with 675. So you have another chance to win. You got to name number 2, though. I like how Mikey's looking at his notes. If he took good notes, you get this. But
Sean Watson.
I'm sorry, that is incorrect. Mikey, for the win, who is number 2 in pass attempts back in 2018?
I'm going to go with Andrew Luck.
Ding, ding, ding. Mikey Renault wins 639. He wins 3-2. That was a highly contested game. Some of the other guys, Jared Goff, 561 points. Russell Wilson, 20th in pass attempts with 427. 20th. Incredible. And so the big reason for that, obviously, is because of the completions. And if we're talking about the top 5 guys, so look how closely this works in terms of what pass attempts. Now, Mahomes did lead the league in points in our system with 888 points.
That's
incredible number. Big Ben was second. He finished as the number 1 in pass attempts. Matt Ryan was third. He was third in pass attempts. Andrew Luck was fourth. He was second. Kirk Cousins was fifth, and he finished in there. So pass attempts is huge when you guys are drafting. Think about your quarterbacks and the systems they play in. Now, we saw a couple years ago, back in 2017, Russell Wilson led the league in terms of points and did so at 738. Now, I don't want to get too far off the subject in terms of pass attempts because we know what Seattle does, but in terms of just here are the top 5 from 2017. Wilson at 738. Tom Brady, 734. Matt Stafford, 690. Drew Brees, 684. Phillip Rivers, 679. And now you talk of the top 5 last year, 888, 851, 835, 822, 755. How incredible are those numbers? Big uptick of points last year in terms of quarterback play.
Yes, sir. Passing league.
Even more so, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gotten even better this year.
Well, yeah. I mean, in the way our league was, I think when I came in the league of how many points quarterbacks were putting up, I thought that was a lot. But this is, it's like record numbers every single year. I mean, at this point now, I'm going to be surprised that every quarterback doesn't throw for 6,000 yards at this point. So,
I think the big thing in terms of, we were trying to figure out what would be the difference. So offenses are getting more geared to passing, and that's always kind of been the case in the last 15 years or so. Defenses harder to cover. You can't touch the guys anymore. You can bump them at the 5-yard line, but if you touch them at all, now they have instant replay with pass interference. So I wonder if it's going to be a little more difficult even on defenses. But with the uptick in points, does that make you want to take a quarterback even earlier?
No.
Knowing that you can get, you're talking about 888 points compared to the top running back, which was, 300 points?
Yeah, but it's different. And you explained it. So you had all these quarterbacks that had over 700 points. So there's depth there. Whereas other positions, there's not.
Correct.
So even though they're putting up a high volume of points, you can still get somebody that gives you that high volume of points later on in the draft.
And that's a pretty good segue in terms, unless you want to add something, Todd, in terms of when you should be drafting quarterback. Let me just say one more thing before, and Mikey mentioned this as we talk into it, and I don't want to steal his thunder or anything, but we were chatting as we were looking over rankings, and he was telling me, he goes, some of the guys, I questioned some of the guys he had up there, he goes, Eric, they're never the same dudes. Like the top 5 from 2017, not in the top 5 in 2018. I thought that was interesting. Wilson, Brady, Stafford, Brees, Rivers, Mahomes, Big Ben, Matt Ryan, Andrew Luck, Kirk Cousins.
But also,
interesting.
But also, too, you have to think about, too, that there's always going to be, a new quarterback, whether it's a rookie or maybe one that's, under the radar that comes in and has a big year and bumps somebody out of the top 5.
Sure, but for all 5 to be out of there, it's volatile. It's a different. But you got coordinators, different coaches, different players. So, kind of getting back into drafting a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of questions I had you guys that I typed out to you guys. When should you be drafting a quarterback, and is the position deep enough to wait until the later rounds? Mikey, you might be able to sum it up in both these questions in one kind of answer here. But what do you think? When you should be drafting a quarterback, and is it deep enough to wait until the later rounds? I'm sure you're going to answer both of these with one answer here.
Well, definitely not in the first round. I think the league is caught on.
I think so.
Last year was the first year in the history of the league that a quarterback didn't go in round 1.
In fact, not in the first 2 rounds.
Right. So, and one didn't go until round 3. If I'm taking like a tier 1 elite quarterback, then I think it's okay to consider it in rounds 3 or 4. But with me, I'm always more likely to wait until round 10 or later. And I think there's depth for me to be able to do that.
Well, let me ask you this question, and both of you guys can answer this. Patrick Mahomes was like 50 points higher than everyone else. If you knew that Patrick Mahomes was, again, and I'm just using this hypothetical. I'm not asking is he going to do it again. But let's say we know for sure he's going to beat the number 2 guy by 50 points. Would you draft him in the 4th round?
No.
Yeah, I would.
Question.
I would.
You would.
Yeah.
You would, because you would know for sure.
I would guarantee myself those points. Absolutely.
I wouldn't. I think the league is, like you said, the league is definitely changed, and it's changed my mindset where, I would rather have really 2 good a superstar running back and a superstar wide receiver, and then a second kind of tier running back and a second tier wide receiver, and then I get a good, decent quarterback. I mean, I got Matt Ryan in the, 15th, 16th round. So, and he ended up in the top 5. So I think whether you think it's going to guarantee it's going to happen again, because personally, when we get to this question, if Patrick Mahomes is going to be able to do what he did again, let's face it, the league catches on. The league has more tape.
Yeah, but he's telling you that you'd be guaranteed that, and this was a guy that was getting like 60 points plus. Each week, and you're guaranteeing that.
50 touchdowns.
Yeah, but I beat the person to get to the title game. Let
me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that you would rather take a running back or wide receiver over Patrick Mahomes because you want that depth at that position because it's harder to come by. Is that what you're saying? Who would you rather have? Because this is based on who you drafted in the 4th round last year. Would you take Patrick Mahomes and his 50 points higher than the next quarterback or Lamar Miller?
I think I'd still take Lamar Miller.
Oh, no.
No.
Come on, man.
I think I'd
still do the math. If you're going to take a quarterback later on, you're hoping that they can get you like 45 plus a week. And then you're taking your second receiver, who none of these guys, especially like secondary receivers, are guaranteed to get you 10, more or less 15 to add up to that 60.
But you got what you have to look at when you're drafting the wide receiver, see what system they are in too, and what kind of offense they're in, and who their quarterback is. Because if they're a third or 4th string wide receiver or whatever the case may be, but they have a Hall of Fame quarterback.
But you're banking on you being right about him.
My track record.
Lamar Miller last year
finished
21st amongst running backs in our league. 155 points. Is that worth that? To know that he was 25th. Are you talking about 21st running back overall over Patrick Mahomes, who was number 1 by far?
That wasn't a fair question because wasn't he on Todd's team?
Lamar Miller? That's who he drafted in the 4th round.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
He was consistent
But
enough.
what you're saying is that he's so loyal to his guys. Okay. All right. So in our league, we have, 17 rounds? Do you need to draft a backup quarterback? And the reason why I ask this is because Quayne drafted Matt Stafford in the 11th round, and a couple rounds later drafted Patrick Mahomes and ended up taking him to the playoffs.
Depends on who your first quarterback is. If he's an elite of elite, then maybe you can see how the board kind of falls to you. Then maybe you can skip on a quarterback and just streamline one, on a bye week or whatever. But if it's one you're not really sure about, like if you waited all the way to for example, like Eli Manning or something, and obviously you're not sure how good he's, what that situation is going to look like, then maybe you do draft you do draft a backup quarterback. So I think it just kind of depends. I mean, I draft a backup myself, but obviously, Matt Ryan definitely worked out because he was my first quarterback. Obviously, we all know that was the infamous, not Kirk Cousins pick, So I think it just depends on how, if you don't feel good about your first quarterback that you drafted, your number 1 that you're going to start, week 1, then I think you do draft a backup.
Do you agree with that?
I agree with that point, and me and Quayne usually kind of do that same strategy. We're usually 2 of the last ones to draft, but we follow it up pretty quickly with drafting a second one because you want to have an option if you're drafting a quarterback that low. I mean, if you're taking the upper tiered guys like Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers, then I don't really think it's all that necessary. You can just look for a streamer.
Good point. Yep, I figured that's where that was going to go. My next question was tier-based ranking, but let's do that at the end. We'll see how much time we get to, and we'll create our first couple of tiers in terms of quarterback. So you'll have to, the audience, have to wait and see who we tell you where the tiers are in terms of quarterback. So let's get into some individual talk, and how do you not talk about Patrick Mahomes, who lit up the league last year. It was incredible to watch, especially, maybe not incredible since we're Bronco fans, but I mean, he was something else to watch. Last season, we mentioned first in points with 888, played in every game, 383 completions, over 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns. He also rushed for 2 touchdowns and 272 yards, had a couple of fumbles. Last year, he was drafted in the 13th round and ended up finishing number 1, so go think about that. Is Patrick Mahomes the number 1 quarterback overall? Todd, we'll start with you.
I had him number 2. I think Aaron Rodgers is the number 1 overall quarterback, and obviously that's not obviously what Patrick Mahomes did. I mean, historically, just put up video game numbers, especially in that offense. But it's still Aaron Rodgers, and you kind of just want to see if he can either try to do that again or do something close to it, because like I said, he was a rookie. He was technically a rookie quarterback, and only played 1 game in his rookie year against the Broncos. When the Broncos finally checked out, and obviously teams now have a lot of tape on him now, so they can they can try to figure out ways to stop him. So if he can put up either those same numbers or more or something close to it, then Patrick Mahomes is planted his flag as the number 1 quarterback for years to come in fantasy football. So it's kind of a show me, but obviously I had him number 2, so obviously it didn't knock him too much down for that. So, but I think Aaron Rodgers is still number 1 just because he's kind of done it longer.
So I asked Todd that first because Mikey doesn't have Patrick Mahomes number 1. And where do you have Patrick Mahomes, and why don't you have him number 1?
I've got him at number 2, and there's some concern. I mean, regression's coming just because, only 3 people have ever thrown for 50 touchdowns. So it's not something that's just going to keep happening over and over and over again. So that's the first part. The Tyreek Hill situation is the other part. It's kind of nobody knows if he's going to be suspended or the Chiefs going to discipline him. And he's such a huge part of that offense.
He's going to be disciplined, right? He's going to be disciplined.
I mean, you would figure that he would.
Not that we're getting into the dynamics of why or what, but he's based on what we've heard, he's going to be.
Yeah, think about it. He accounted for 1,500 yards and 12 touchdowns. It's a huge piece.
Yeah.
Huge piece. So, I don't have him going down that far. I have him going down from 50 touchdowns to 38, but it's enough to drop him to second position for me behind Andrew Luck.
So you're saying Andrew Luck is your number 1 quarterback?
Number 1 quarterback.
Now why? So we'll just keep talking. Well, let's finish our Mahomes, and then we'll ask you about Andrew Luck being number 1. You meant Kareem Hunt's not there either.
Correct.
And he was a big part. Now we obviously lost him during the season, but it was late in the season. As you mentioned, just 3 guys ever threw 50 touchdowns. All of them regressed the next season. The regression is happening. I think the other thing that we kind of saw was Kansas City wasn't that great defensively in a lot of games, and they had to throw a ton. They have a new defense, a lot of new players. They got rid of some players. So we're not sure what to expect from the defense. And I think that kind of helps Mahomes in that regard, because in terms of some of the players they brought on, who knows if that's going to be a factor or not, but I think it definitely – there's going to be time for them to kind of get together and play together. And obviously when defenses stink, that helps the quarterback. Kansas City last year, 9th in pass attempts, 23rd in rush attempts. They do like to run the ball. We'll see what Damian Williams does. I mean, he was pretty incredible in his time last year. But, I mean, the league's going to see him, catch up to him. We'll see if that plays a factor. Just some of the notes I had. Do you guys have numbers? You kind of mentioned your numbers, but what are your kind of final numbers for Patrick Mahomes in 2019?
I think he throws for 3,000 yards, I think I agree with
You
Mikey.
write it down.
What? No, I write it down. Hold on.
Well, you're looking in the air. Is it in the cloud somewhere?
It's in the cloud.
You have like a hologram or something up in the air?
I put it up in the cloud, but I agree with Mikey around 38 touchdowns. I think he's gonna rush for more. I think he's gonna rush for like 20 touchdowns.
What? 20 touchdowns? That means he has to be the number one. 20 touchdowns. Really? So do you have him in rush yards, or do you just have the touchdowns?
I just have the touchdown.
20 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
Interesting. Mikey, what was your final number?
So I had 4,830 yards,
Okay.
38 touchdowns, 14 picks. So I only had 3 rushing touchdowns and 240 yards rushing. So he's not really a big-time running quarterback. I mean, he can scramble, but he's not like a run-to-run guy. He can throw on the run.
I had his touchdowns up a little bit. I actually had his touchdowns up to 6. I think they're going to have to. Depending on what Damian Williams does, they really don't have like kind of a backup to kind of help him out. So I have him rushing a little bit more, but I think he'll take some of those goal lines. But I have him for 4,500 yards and 40 touchdowns. So it's still, in my opinion, still the number one guy. So interesting to see. He will regress. I don't think anybody's thinking, well, Todd may have him over 50, but that's with the rushing touchdowns also. So my next kind of question was who's number 2? But before we do that, Mikey's number 1 is Andrew Luck, a guy that over the years that Mikey's been infatuated with.
Hey, look what happened last year.
He was incredible last year, but didn't finish number 1.
No.
So why is he your number 1 this year?
I just think second year in the offense with Frank Reich, and they had brought that offense over from Philadelphia, which is a notorious just passing offense. The thing that I love about the Colts offense is they love throwing in the red zone. So I have Mahomes passing for more yards than Andrew Luck, but I have Andrew Luck having more touchdowns than Patrick Mahomes does.
Okay.
So that's where the difference in points is. The other thing is I think Luck's going to have a decent amount more completions than Mahomes will. Just because they use their passing game in Indianapolis as a way of running the ball, with these little short completions, out to running backs and stuff like that.
So you don't believe Mac is going to come in and take the pressure off Andrew Luck and rush for 1,500 yards?
He's okay, but he's not. That's not the way that this offense rolls.
Right.
They're not there to sit and ground and pound and play defense. That's not what this team does. I also like, and I know I can catch flack about this, but Devin Funchess is better than what they had as far as receiver. I would take Devin Funchess over Dante Moncrief, and and these other guys that they've had. So, and they also drafted Campbell in the second round, who I've heard a lot of people compare to Keenan Allen. So if that turns out, it'll be even better.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about Andrew Luck, since we're on the topic?
I mean,
where do you have him ranked?
I have him 3rd.
Okay.
So obviously, definitely he showed his, past his injury, prone seasons.
He's already injured right now.
It's a calf.
I'm just preaching what I read, man. Just telling you what I see. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Obviously, how the offense is. I mean, Ty is going to definitely be the big part to that. I mean, he's definitely going to have to. Ty is definitely going to have to keep raising his game up, because Ty, I think, can be at times be inconsistent. Sometimes
Todd hates T.Y. Hilton. Didn't have him ranked last year.
I know. Well, hey, what can I say? I had him on my team a few years ago, and he screwed me. So,
Never again.
Never again.
Never again.
I think he's definitely going to be, a key for Andrew Luck for this upcoming season, because obviously he's going to have, some rookies maybe, like you said, Campbell, and then Funchess.
We didn't even mention the tight ends.
Oh, Eric, Ebron.
That's what I thought.
Jack Doyle.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
Eric Ebron, Jack Doyle.
No, Doyle or Ebron. I mean, let's face it. I mean, North Carolina's strong, but
different show. We're not here to talk about tight ends.
I know. I'm just.
But okay. The only concern. I mean, I have him 4th, so I still have him pretty high. The thing I have with Andrew Luck is I think their defense is going to be better. They got really good last year, and I think they took steps to even get better this year. Are they going to have to throw enough? They were 2nd in the entire league in terms of passing attempts. So that's gonna. I mean, I think that's still part of the plan. That's not going to change. But if the defense steps it up another notch, they may not have to throw as much. And we obviously saw how important pass attempts are. I still think he's going to be in the top 5 in pass attempts. He'll still be in the top 5. But if we're going to nitpick, I think there's other offenses where those pass attempts are going to go up because they have to, a la Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.
It's a nitpick. I'll allow it.
I appreciate that. I am the lead host. I'll allow what I want to allow.
Say what
Anything
I
else we
want
want to say about Andrew Luck? Last year he was drafted in the 6th round, ended up being 5th, or he finished 4th overall. Had a great season, 39 touchdowns, 4,600 yards. Does not rush for any. Well, he had 140 yards rushing, but that's not something you're looking at to help you out. All right, well, so we'll keep going. Let's talk about who's our number 2 quarterback. Now, we talked about for Mikey, his number 2 was Patrick Mahomes. Who was your number 2, Todd?
Aaron Rodgers.
All right, let's get into some Aaron Rodgers talk. And so what is it about Aaron Rodgers, who last year finished, he's not even, or he's up here. He finished 8th overall in our system after being the first quarterback taken in our league. I think that's correct.
New head coach, new offense. Obviously McCarthy's, was with Aaron Rodgers, from the beginning. So I think, LaFleur can open the offense a little bit up for him a little bit more. So I think he'll throw a little bit more and just be, kind of the offense was kind of blend a little bit. It's just, half the time Aaron Rodgers was running for his life too. But obviously still made some just incredible throws. I mean, to win games. So, I think Aaron Rodgers might get back to what he did, the last few years, putting up, 30 plus touchdowns and, throwing for, 3,000 to 4,000 yards, in the season. So I think that'll help too. And obviously the running game will, they need to get the running game a little bit too. Figure out who there's, is it going to be Aaron Jones? But that's a different podcast. But I think Aaron Rodgers will definitely I think he'll finish as the number 1 quarterback in fantasy.
Number 1. Okay, so you have him ranked number 1. I just want to make sure that.
No, you're fine. You're good.
So, Mikey, what's your take on Aaron Rodgers? A guy we know, as he mentioned, Matt LaFleur is their new offensive coordinator. Or actually, is he the head coach?
Yeah,
he's head coach.
Yeah.
He was the guy that helped Matt Ryan win the 2016 MVP. Worked under masterminds. Obviously, it's all the rave under John McVay in Washington and with Los Angeles Rams. What do you think about Aaron Rodgers?
I think he'll be good. I just don't know that I see him number 1.
You have him number 2 in your ranking. No, number 7. Sorry.
I have him number 7.
So a little further down than the rest of us.
I almost think as he's going later into his career, and you can kind of see by the moves they made in the offseason, they're really focusing really hard on building the defense. And they didn't bring in like any receiving help for him either. Like, it almost seems like they're trying to do like how the Broncos did with John Elway late in his career, where they're building a solid defense. They're going to run the ball, be really good offensively, but not like super pass heavy, I don't think. So
is it like you're talking about more of a balanced?
Yeah, more of a balanced offense. Like, I mean, I have him, 4,300 yards, 32 touchdowns, which are good numbers.
Really good numbers.
But, like, I don't think it's going to be eye-popping 40 touchdowns, 5,000 yards, Aaron Rodgers.
Let me ask you this question. Is he injury prone? We saw a couple of years ago he only played in 6 games. He played all 16 games, which I was actually surprised when I read that number because he only had 25 passing touchdowns. But he played with a tibial fracture, MCL sprain. I think he actually happened on a primetime game. I think we were all watching it and saw him struggle, and he played through it. Doesn't mean that's a good thing because when you're playing with injury.
It lingered.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if he's injury prone.
Are you worried about him playing 16 games? I mean, if you have him ranked 7th, maybe you do. If you're ranked high like Todd, then maybe not. But, I mean, is that something you take into account when you're rating your quarterbacks?
No. I didn't really take that into account. I mean, it's a solid point, and the offensive line's not great. So but I didn't take it into account when I was ranking him, no.
Yeah, and you mentioned the line. He was sacked 49 times, the most since 2012. He does have Devontae Adams, so there's upside. For me, I mean, I had him ranked pretty high. I think I have him second overall. He's just one of those guys that has shown it. He can do it. He's an elite guy. We've seen his offensive line bad before. I just think the injuries just plagued him. He still threw for 4,500 yards last year. Still had a 97 QBR. And he still had 2 rushing touchdowns. He's just one of those guys that can do it.
You believe in Jimmy Graham, don't you?
I do not believe. Oh, come on. You know how I feel about Jimmy Graham. But I still think he has the ability to, in terms of what we see on the field. He's just one of the. I mean, it's Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Big Ben. There's just guys that just can do it, and he has the ability, and he's okay when he's running out of the pocket. He just got it. He has to be healthy. If he's not healthy, he doesn't play great, and I think that makes a difference.
But I think obviously a new offense maybe might re-energize him a little bit too.
It seems like it. All the news headline, everybody's excited about it.
Yeah.
And we still don't know who the running back is, which means they'll probably still have to throw. So we'll see. I mean, I'm an Aaron Jones fan, but we'll see how it kind of goes. We'll keep going here. Let's talk about some Big Ben. He finished second in points in 2018. His fantasy days, are they over? Are his fantasy days over after losing 2 of the killer bees, and Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown? Todd, what do you think about Big Ben?
I had him ranked 9th.
So pretty low.
So I think.
Well, I was tied with Mikey. You both have him at 9th.
So obviously it definitely hurts, getting rid of the best wide receiver in football, whether you had your little, squabbles, or not. But I think he can still put up at least 4,000 yards throwing, and I'd probably say less touchdowns. They might run the ball more with James Conner, so maybe I'd say at least 28 to 30 touchdowns for Big Ben. Just because, again, when you lose those 2 dynamic players, because let's face it, when both of those players are on the field and the points they put up and everything they do, it's hard. I mean, obviously, it benefited Juju last year because they were double teaming Brown. So Juju was but now it's the reversal. So let's see how that dynamic is going to work. So I think Connor's definitely going to have to, be a big part of that for Big Ben to put up those numbers so they do have a little bit of balance. But I think Big Ben, regardless, is still going to throw the ball, a shit ton.
So as I mentioned, Mikey also has Big Ben ranked 9th. So is there a lot of concern there? I mean, we saw Juju be effective. We saw James Conner be effective. Are we overblowing the fact that 2 of those 2 guys and Bell and Brown are gone?
No, and I don't think his days of being fantasy relevant are done. I mean, 9th is still top 10.
Sure.
But I think that they have to do it differently. So because you don't have a Le'Veon Bell and you don't have an Antonio Brown, what you're losing is big playability. So I believe he's going to be throwing a lot. I think he's going to be getting his points off completions and yards, but less so, like Todd said, on the touchdowns. Because now they don't have that guy that can take a 5-yard or 10-yard pass, go 50 to 60 with it, and score a touchdown.
Juju can't do that?
Juju's more of a possession guy.
But he makes some plays.
He can make some plays, but he's not Antonio Brown.
Sure.
As much as people love him, and I loved him, he's not Antonio Brown. So, in some of these parts, James Washington's kind of an unknown commodity. Vance McDonald's okay. James Conner's okay. He's not Le'Veon Bell. I just don't. I think it's a reach to think that Ben's going to hit that same level.
Their defense, middle of the pack. Not a great defense.
It got better, though.
It got better as they went along. But I think if you're looking at the spectrum, are they going to win games? Now, I know that's not a fantasy question. But if you're winning games, you're running the ball out. You're not things aren't going. I mean, things are going well. You don't have to put up a pile of points. Do we think the Steelers? I mean, do we still think that Big Ben's going to put up a lot of completions? Are they going to lead the league in pass attempts again this year?
I'm not going to rule that out. They're one of those teams that, I mean, you see it. Like even when they're up, they still throw. They still throw because sometimes their run's not working, so they just throw. They trust Big Ben.
It's kind of dynamics kind of between the Steelers and the Saints. Because even when the Saints are up, obviously, I mean, Kamara is obviously, elite running back compared to Connor, obviously, at this point. But Drew Brees still throws the ball. They still throw the ball when they're up. So I kind of see that with the Steelers, that you're right, Mikey, that they're still probably going to throw the ball. They're still going to throw the ball a ton.
And I think if that's going to be the case, he'll still be in the top 5 because you're going to have to throw.
Yeah.
I think Connor. I mean, he was in essence a rookie last year.
Yeah.
And still caught 55 balls. I think his numbers go up.
But
we'll see. And then they always end up finding another receiver that ends up doing well.
Yeah, and then they draft.
Whether that's going to be James Washington, you mentioned Dante Moncrief. That's where he's at. Eli Rogers. We'll see if Vance McDonald does anything.
And they
drafted a tight end in the 5th round. They drafted Deontay Johnson in the 3rd. Yeah. He's a wide receiver. So we'll see. I think Big Ben's an elite quarterback that if he needs to put up decent numbers, he can.
Well, and I'll say this. The difference between my 6 and 9 ranked quarterback is razor thin. So while Big Ben's 9,
sure,
I project my 6th ranked quarterback to have 8 more points.
Okay.
So it's very close.
Sure. And that's what we're here to do, is to nitpick, figure out why we like one guy over another. We'll see kind of how it goes. Last year he finished at the 2nd in terms of points, over 5,000 yards. He may not get to 34 touchdowns. He also had 3 rushing touchdowns, so we'll see if that ends up maybe going up without Le'Veon. But we'll see. All right, so the next question we have on our list, let's talk about Matt Ryan. Boy, talk about a volatile quarterback. Finished in the top 5 once again a couple years ago. I got to look at my notes here. He was pretty far down the list, 14th in 2017 amongst points. Do we like Matt Ryan? Do we hate Matt Ryan? Mikey's shaking his head. Does that mean you hate Matt Ryan?
No, it means I love Matt Ryan.
You love Matt Ryan. We'll go through the rankings here. Mikey has him 5th. I have him 3rd, and Todd has him 7th.
So we talked about passing attempts. And so Dirk Cutter is back as the offensive coordinator. And he was there in 2012, 2013, and 2014. The coincidence, or if you want to call it a coincidence, is those 3 seasons were the highest amount of passing attempts during Matt Ryan's career. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, and 3. That's impressive.
And now he gets him back. So each of those years, he was well over 600 attempts and 400 completions. And this is a team that got rid of Tevin Coleman, has an injury-prone Devontae Freeman.
But plenty of weapons. Yeah.
A lot of weapons. So, I love Matt Ryan.
Todd, Matt Ryan, the guy who had him on his team last year, finished 3rd overall in points with 835 and close to 5,000 pass yards, 35 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions. Any concern? You think he's going to put up similar numbers?
I think he might regress a little bit, just because, again, I've just seen when they've seen these quarterbacks have put up these big numbers that the next year they, get too comfortable, per se, when they're like, well, everything's going to happen the way it happened the year before. Doesn't really work that way. So, I mean, obviously I have him 7th. Again, I'm not sliding him. I didn't put him at 17 by any means. But obviously, with Coleman gone, I think that hurt a little bit, because Coleman, like I said, just stepped up big when Freeman went out. So, but obviously he still has plenty of weapons and still has number 11 Jones. He has Ridley. He has Sanu. So he still has plenty of weapons. So I think for Matt Ryan, I think he throws for 3,000 yards, and I'm gonna go 25 touchdowns. I think he regresses a little bit from the.
That's a lot of it.
Yeah.
That's 2,000 less yards and 10 less touchdowns.
I mean, I just think he might. He's done this before. I've seen this show before,
so
where
the volatility scares Todd
a little bit
with Matt Ryan. That's why he has him 7th.
Yeah.
The thing that I like about Matt Ryan this year is that the team is invested in that offense. 2 offensive linemen with their 2 first-round draft picks. That's incredible. They want to keep him standing up. They want him clean. They want him to throw all day. The team was 5th in pass attempts in all of the NFL, 30th in rushing, and obviously with Freeman injured, Ito not being what they thought, Tevin Coleman, you said he stepped up, but I don't think he stepped up to what Freeman could do. Like, he put up decent numbers, but there's a reason why they threw a lot. And that is because their defense stinks. It'll probably stink again. They drafted a couple of defensive players in the 4th round, but last year finished 5th in terms of yards allowed and 8th in terms of points per game allowed. So I think, again, that's why I have him 3rd. He's going to have to throw. He's a great quarterback. He's not that old. And as you mentioned, the weapons, it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up finishing. So I'm excited for Matt Ryan just as much as you guys are. So let's talk about a guy I am not excited about, and that is Russell Wilson. 2 years ago, finished first, as we mentioned. This year, what are our thoughts as I look through the rankings? Mikey has Russell Wilson 20th. I have him 12th. Todd has him 8th. So let's start with Mikey. I thought I hated Russell Wilson with my 12th ranking, and Mikey has him 20th. Not even a starting quarterback in our league. Mikey, Renault, explain yourself.
I don't hate Russell Wilson.
Well, not as a human being, but as a fantasy quarterback.
As a real quarterback, he's probably top 5. As a real quarterback.
Hard to argue with that because his wins are incredible.
But that's not what we talk about on this podcast. We talk about fantasy. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about fantasy. And the guy that I actually hate, which is Brian Schottenheimer, the offensive coordinator.
Oh, God.
Because when it comes to fantasy and passing game, Brian Schottenheimer is just ridiculously bad. Okay? All right, so he took the reins of the offense last year. They finished first in the league in rushing, but dead last in passing attempts.
Preach it, son.
Okay? In his 10-year career as an offensive coordinator, okay, Brian Schottenheimer has not once finished above 13th in passing attempts. Not one time. And never above 16th in passing yards.
Goodness gracious.
In 10 years.
Yeah, but look at some of the wide receivers Russell Wilson's had to throw the ball to.
That's regardless. That's irrelevant to me. They're not going to give him the chance to throw to any receivers, is what I'm saying. And think about this last year. You said he finished 15th? He finished 15th with 35 touchdown passes.
Only 280 completions.
That is a ton of touchdown passes, and I don't see him getting to 35 touchdown passes again.
But the thing is too is when you're talking about they didn't throw the ball out, they still had beast mode. So they were like, well, let's hand the ball off to the maybe the second best player on our team. That's why the passing numbers were so skewed, and now they have to throw the ball because they don't have an elite running back to hand the ball off to.
They didn't. They had Chris Carson last year, and they still were last in attempts.
Well, maybe they were believing too much in Chris Carson, but
it's not.
When they had beast mode, come on, Mikey.
It's the offensive coordinator. It's all it is. They want to be a running team. He even came out in OTAs 2 days ago, and they asked him, "Are you going to be that same type of team?" He said, "Yes. Running the ball is what we do, and we're going to continue to just pound that rock." That's what he does.
They're not. Well, again, that's a different conversation. But I think now knowing they got like a legit number one wide receiver, I think it'll change. You can say a lot of things in the off season, Mikey. You can say a lot of things in the off season. And when the regular when the preseason starts and when they start playing and when you have to start game planning a little bit more, things change a little bit.
I don't want to get off track, but you've made this relevant to me. You said they have a legit number one receiver. I want to know who that is.
DJ Metcalf. And I know rookie wide, but this dude's the real deal.
Why is he the real deal? We don't want to talk too much about him, but
the thing is,
it's because of his combine. That's why. Does that make him a number one wide receiver? Because he was a freak. No, he was a freak of nature. All Russell Wilson has to do is throw the ball up, and he'll go and catch it. That's all. That's all you need. And obviously, his knock was just because he didn't know how to run routes very well. You know who didn't know how to run routes very well when they came out of college? Randy Moss and Terrell Owens. They're in the Hall of Fame. So. Game, set, and match. Russell Wilson had just one game last year with 300-plus pass yards. His 280 completions was his lowest in 4 years. The thing that I like about Russell Wilson is he's an elite quarterback.
Yes, I agree.
I think, I agree. The completions are not going to be great. I think his rushing is going to be better. Last year, he had 376 yards rushing and 0 touchdowns. And I think just as a quarterback in the past that's run for 5, 6 touchdowns, I don't know if he'll get that high, but I think he has that ability to rush, and I think that's going to bring his numbers up a little bit. I don't believe that G.J. Metcalf's a number 1, but I think he's a good enough quarterback to where he can accumulate. I mean, I have him as number 12, so take that for what it's worth. Mikey has him so low, 20th, number 12. So I still have him as a starting quarterback because of the guys I have behind him. I don't trust as much in terms of Cam Newton, Jameis Winston, and we'll talk about Carson Wentz. But, man, oh, man, it's not looking good, Todd.
If he doesn't hit that touchdown number, it's not going to be looking good.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. So Russell Wilson, interesting to talk about. He was number 1 2 years ago. All right, let's talk about kind of a guy that has amazing upside but has yet to prove it 100% is Baker Mayfield. Can he be better than he was last year?
Well, the Browns went and got OBJ, so they pretty much said let's see what Mayfield's got. Obviously, kind of came in toward the middle of the season. Obviously, again, it comes down to it. Teams have more tape and everything, so let's see. Let's see how he handles the pressure. But I think Baker. I think throws for 2,000 yards, rushes because he has the rushing ability, obviously. Rushes for at least 400 yards. I think passing touchdowns, I'd say 20, and I think 10 rushing touchdowns.
10 rushing touchdowns?
10 rushing touchdowns, yep. Because I think he's.
I think, Todd, you have to understand 3,000 yards is not that much. You're saying 3,000. You said 2,000 yards.
2,000 yards.
That's not a lot for a passing quarterback.
Well, that's
you could probably get that in half a season. A lot of these elite quarterbacks or I'm going to say elite quarterbacks, decent quarterbacks at least throw for 4,000 yards, especially in today's age. 2,000 yards he's going to throw for?
I think he's going to rush more because I think, again, it's going to
This is why he likes Josh Allen.
I have Mayfield at 4,600 yards, so it's a big.
That's a huge difference. And just by the rankings, Mikey has Baker Mayfield 6th, while both Todd and I have him 10th. Go ahead, Mikey.
Well, biggest growth usually with these quarterbacks comes between years 2 and 3, and I think the Browns are trying to do their best to make sure to give him all the tools to make that happen. I mean, he now has an elite outside receiver. He has an elite slot receiver. He's got, once Kareem Hunt gets back, he's got 2 really, really solid running backs. He's got a solid tight end. They've got a decent offensive line. Everything's set up for him to excel. And, he already did pretty well last year. I've got him over, 46 or 4,600 yards, 33 touchdowns.
Wow.
I think his interception total will be high because he is a little bit mistake prone.
Yeah, he's a gunner. Yeah, he'll try to sneak him through those holes for sure.
He is, so I think that'll hurt him a little bit. But, yeah, I don't think he's a big-time rusher. I don't have him anywhere.
He had 131 rush yards last season.
Yeah, and I only have 1 rushing touchdown, so I don't think that's really going to play. And I don't think it'll have to. I think the Browns are going to be a pretty good offense, and I think he's going to be a big reason why.
I think he's going to put up similar numbers. And the only reason why I say that, it kind of goes back to the defense again. They're supposed to be better this year. And if that's the case, I don't know if they'll unleash him as much. If they're in games, the points will go down. He obviously was incredible once Hugh Jackson left. I mean, just looking at these numbers after he left, he averaged 68% completion percentage, 281 yards, and almost 3 touchdowns per game. He had 2 or more touchdowns in 7 of his last 9 games. So something about Hugh Jackson, he's the guy that plays with a chip on his shoulder. And once he was gone, he just lit up the league.
Yeah, but this is a whole team now that plays with chips on their shoulders. Mayfield's not only that guy. Jarvis Landry is that guy. OBJ's that guy. Todd Kitchen's the coach. If you've ever listened to him talk, is that guy. So
that could be a big negative on top of it.
It could, but it could also be, I could see him being a team that would say, hey, let's go run up the score.
I think the big thing that helps this whole situation, I didn't even think about this, but I didn't realize that Landry and OBJ were college teammates.
They were both drafted the same.
So that's incredible that they've already played together and already have a good rapport. Because sometimes you bring those volatile wide receivers in, and that can cause some friction. But for them to already kind of have a familiarity, it's interesting. He's one of those guys I'm just not sure. He's a guy that's unproven, but he could be a guy. I have him ranked 10th. He could be in the top 5 if everything goes according to plan. Now, we always joke, it's still the Browns, right? Mm-hmm. Still the Browns, right, guys? But I think he's a guy that has the ability to go up. Now, we're almost an hour into the show, so we're going to speed this up a little bit. We have a couple more quarterbacks. Let's talk about Carson Wentz. And Mikey has him 4th. Todd and I have him 16th and 15th, respectively. What is it about Carson Wentz? Did he invite you to his wedding? You guys best buddies that I don't know about? Is he sending you some? I mean, breaking news, he got a 4-year extension, so maybe he's sending some of that cash to Mikey Renault. But 4th overall? I don't think he's ever been that high, has he?
Oh, yeah. Pre-injury, 2017. This was a guy that was averaging 59 points a game. 59. Pre-injury.
Keep going. Tell me why. That was a couple years ago.
Well, it's just the Eagles, like I explained with the Colts, that they love to throw the ball. They're not like really big running teams. And he's got the weapons. He's got Zach Ertz. He's got Alshon Jeffrey. You know, they brought back a deep threat in Deshaun Jackson. They still have Nelson
named off
Aguilar.
a lot of wide receivers that are not very good.
They're good in that offense.
I hate to interrupt you.
So this is the last 3 years with Peterson and Wentz in passing attempts. 7th, 13th, and 6th last year. So it's a team that loves to throw the ball. But not only that, and this was a stat that I pulled up that I love. In the red zone the last 2 years with Carson Wentz, 42 touchdowns in the red zone, 1 interception.
So he's great when he's out there.
He's great when he's out there.
When he's out there.
When he's out there.
So obviously that's a big issue. Coming off a season where he tore his ACL, his MCL, and he's got back issues.
Yeah, I'm counting on him being healthy.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah, I'll say if he tears
Philadelphia Eagles who just paid him a bunch of money, that's a scary thing to kind of base.
But that's what these rankings are all about. You're trying to project.
Sure.
Yeah, but that's a lot though, just because of the injury prone. I mean, because if he does anything, that's a
one time in his career. Now he's only played 3 years, but one time he's had 16 games. It's been 13 and 11 the last 2 years.
And all I'm telling you is what the upside with this kid is. Unbelievable fantasy upside if you get
to rank him 4th.
Yes.
Come on, Mike.
If he's healthy for a full 16 games, I guarantee he will be top 5.
In your response to saying when he's out there, he's good. It's very true. I did the numbers. 46 points per game in our league in 11 games played the last 2 years, which is pretty incredible. However, he's also turnover prone.
Not in the red zone.
32 fumbles over the last couple of, in his 3-year career because he likes to run. I think they're gonna bring the reins on that, don't you think? I mean, if they're worried about him being hurt, and I think that's kind of part of his game. He's not a big rusher, but he likes to go out of there. He likes to get out of the pocket, and he likes to get those yards. Do they have to hold him back?
They didn't give him the money to hold him back. I'm
yeah,
telling you
but
that right now.
they gave him the money so he wouldn't go somewhere else. So another team would give him the money. Because the thing is, if the Eagles didn't give him all that money, then he would think, well, you know what? They don't really believe in me, whether injuries are set aside. Some other team was going to pay him. That's why I think they paid him. But that's just me.
4th.
Just to kind of give you my projection on him. You take it what you will. But, I mean, I have him reaching the 400 completion mark. And I have him at about 400 yards, 32 touchdowns.
4th. Interesting. 4th. All right, folks. You heard it here first.
Guaranteed.
Until he gets hurt.
Stays healthy.
In preseason.
Top 5 quarterback. Don't say I didn't tell you.
Okay.
I'm telling you right now.
If he gets hurt in preseason, Mikey,
all right, we got to keep going.
Okay.
Let's go through these pretty quickly.
All right.
Do you guys have any sleeper quarterbacks? Now, I know I put in the notes, give me someone who's flying under the radar that can help fantasy teams win. It could be based on how they finish. You can arrange your own sleeper format, but give me a sleeper or two that you guys kind of like. Mikey?
Derek Carr.
Oh, my gosh. We've had this discussion. Yeah, let's talk about Derek Carr. Go ahead. Why do you like Derek Carr?
I like the additions: Antonio Brown, Tyrell Williams, J.J. Nelson, Hunter Renfrow. I also like quarterbacks' adaptability to the Gruden system in the second year. I mean, Rich Gannon was first-team All-Pro second year under Gruden. Brad Johnson had his most passing attempts and touchdowns in his career second year under Gruden. So I think that Carr, I have him ranked 17th, so it doesn't mean that I think he's a starter.
But he has the ability.
He has the ability. So, I mean, you can draft him, and I think he has enough upside to where he could reach starter level.
Interesting. Todd, give me a sleeper.
Josh Allen.
Here we go.
Yeah.
He's probably got him for 50 rushing touchdowns. Why do you like Josh Allen?
Obviously, the games I saw last year definitely showed some promise. He has that potential, and he has that rushing potential too as well. So I think Josh Allen definitely is gonna surprise a lot of people. I mean, I had him at 15, so it wasn't like I had him at 4. Like Carson Wentz, boy over here. So I think Josh Allen definitely will kind of take a next step up.
Josh Allen.
Yes.
Todd has him ranked 15th. So definitely a sleeper.
That's ridiculous.
That's just definitely a sleeper. A guy that I had that actually finished 9th last year, but a guy that can finish in the top 3, maybe 4 is Deshaun Watson. Going through his stats, he had a lot of injuries that happened to his team in terms of Will Fuller and Kiki Kuti. He also dealt with chest injuries last year, played through it, 16 games played. Close to 69% completion percentage. So if everything goes according to plan, everybody stays healthy, the run game obviously is still not going to be explosive. He could be a guy that can throw for a lot of yards. He's efficient. We saw what he could do in limited time a couple of years ago. Rushed for 551 yards, 5 touchdowns. That's definitely a possibility again. I like him. He's a guy that could definitely finish up there, despite where I have him ranked at 7th. All right, so give me a bust. Todd, we'll start with you.
Nick Foles. He's going to Jacksonville. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
All that talk. You love Nick Foles.
I
At least all those talks in those previous shows. All right, so you go ahead. Let's in terms of Nick Foles, we all have him ranked pretty low. Mikey 28th, me 24th, and Todd 21st.
It's still going to. It's still Jacksonville. Obviously, it's not. He doesn't have the weapons that he had in Philly. I mean, obviously, if they can get the running game going, maybe that might help him. But I think Nick Foles is going to kind of regress because, I mean, really now he's the guy. There's nobody else that's going to, especially in Jacksonville, there's going to be nobody that's going to threaten his job. There's no Carson Wentz, waiting in the wings to take his job. So,
Mikey, I know why he likes Nick Foles. Do you know why? Because he scored 55 points against them in the championship game last year. Is that what it is? Recency bias?
No.
Yeah, it is.
No.
Nick Foles, interesting. Just some quick stats of Nick Foles because I thought they were interesting. He's never played 16 games in a season.
Yeah.
Has never thrown for 3,000 yards in a season.
Yeah.
He has his rushing total last 4 years, 36 yards. And the Jags, 26 in pass yards, second to last in terms of points per game. So not saying he couldn't lift those numbers up, but I'm not sure if he can give you what you're looking for. Mikey, what kind of bust candidate do you have?
Got Eli Manning. He ranked 13th. He ranked 13th overall though in our league, which was surprising.
I have 15th, but I'll double check that.
And so yeah, I've got him at 23 now. The Giants are just bad. Besides Saquon Barkley, they're just bad. He's bad. Daniel Jones is probably going to play at some point this season.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't like Eli whatsoever.
Yeah, you're right. 13th. Good job, Mikey. Yeah, it's not going to be pretty for Eli Manning whatsoever. My bust was Carson Wentz, but we talked enough about Carson Wentz. How about we talk about Cam Newton a little bit? A guy that didn't finish great. He was dealing with some injuries as well last year. In terms of Cam Newton, let's see where we all have him ranked. 16th for Mikey, 15th for me, 17th for Todd. His numbers just aren't great.
He's just okay.
He's fine.
Right.
He'll have a week where things are clicking. But, man, I mean, outside of McCaffrey, you have Ian Thomas, Chris Hogan, Torrey Smith, Curtis Samuel, DJ Moore, who's okay as a rookie. Funchess is gone. They drafted a wide receiver in the 7th round. As you mentioned, he's just starting to throw footballs. I mean, that doesn't bother you guys, but I don't know. I think he could finish worse. He could finish near 20th if things just – there's just not a lot of positivity to say about Cam.
He'll still run, though.
Yeah, he'll still – yeah, even though they have a very capable runner that's in McCaffrey, Cam Newton's like, nope, I still have to run. But
okay, let's do this real quick before we go. We're a little bit over time, but right now we're at the beginning of June, so – obviously, things can definitely change as we get closer. We didn't get to talk too much about disputes. Maybe we'll go over these just briefly. In terms of Tom Brady, Todd Mikey have him 13th. I have him 16th, so we're not super high. Maybe a guy he's just been – my big thing with Tom Brady is he's just been so terrible the last few years in the playoffs, fantasy playoffs.
Well, no upside with him. Like last year was the first time since 2004 that he didn't throw for at least 350 in a game. And he only had 5 300-yard games total, which is very unlike him. So he's consistent, but not upside. No upside.
No upside. Yeah, and he's so bad in the fantasy playoffs. I think 2 years ago he did finish second, so I don't know if that helps anybody out there. But not super high on Tom Brady. Golf, we were similar. I had him 8th. Todd had him 6th. Mikey had him 11th. Todd, quick thoughts on Jared Goff?
Obviously, still high-powered offense. Still capable of putting up big numbers. So I mean, still an elite quarterback.
I'm concerned about the Gurley injury and how that ties into Goff's production.
It could either help him or hurt him.
I think it hurts him.
Throws him more.
He was terrible in the playoffs because of that.
And did the Patriots give everyone a blueprint on how to slow him down? Because they made him look silly in that Super Bowl. In terms of, we talked about Josh Allen. How about Jimmy Garoppolo? I had him 20th. Todd had him 28th. Mikey 25th. What is it about Garoppolo that excites you guys or don't excite you guys? I'm trying to find him on my list here.
I'm not excited about his weapons, and I'm not excited about how they would use them either. I think they're going to be an efficient offense, but not explosive.
They better keep him upright. That's all I got to say. They better just keep him upright and just make sure he can play, more than just, 3 or 4 games. So
he's also still learning the Kyle Shanahan offense, still dealing with knee issues as we speak.
Yeah.
So
that's the whole injury thing. Like I mean, even if he doesn't put up big numbers, if he can just play 16 games, I think that's a win there. So.
Never done that in his career.
Yep.
Joe Flacco, just because we're Bronco fans, Todd has him ranked now. I have it on my sheet. He hasn't ranked. We obviously changed that. But I have him 26, Mikey 22nd. One kind of stat that I wanted to throw on the show, the averages of Joe Flacco and Case Keenum are so similar. If you talk about the last 3 years, they're both averaging about 62% completion percentage, about 3,200 yards. In terms of the last 5-year average for Flacco, 3,300 yards, 18 touchdowns, 11 interceptions per season. And for Keenum, it's been 16 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. So I don't think Flacco comes there and makes a big difference. But that's just me. Jameis Winston, we'll do this. Mikey have him 14th, Todd 25th. You hate Jameis Winston? Why?
I think a combination of him staying healthy and him staying out of trouble. If Bruce Arians can fix him, good on him. So
a lot of upside.
And I gave you a stat about Schottenheimer. Now, here's this one about Bruce Arians. His last 9 seasons, his teams have finished top 15 in passing yards all 9 seasons.
And their defense is terrible, which means more passing yards. Yeah. And Drew Brees, Todd has him 4th. I have him 6th. Mikey 10th. Drew Brees is in your top 10, but
not top.
Why is that?
6th.
They don't throw the way they used to.
But Ingram's gone, so do you think the passing attempts go up?
No, I think the Saints as a team are better when they run the ball. They're a better team when they go into.
But this will be the first year that Kamara, if he takes on a full load, I don't know if Buck Allen's going to come in and spell him every once in a while. I don't think he's that good. But can Kamara commit to running 300 attempts on the season and then still be effective?
Guess we're fixing to find out.
That's
I
a tough one.
Really know. They like using Taysom Hill in these little sub packages too, which takes Breeze off the field.
He still had his. I think it's an NFL record, if I'm not mistaken, but 74.4 completion percentage, highest of his career. Was only sacked 17 times last year, but his 3,933 yards was his lowest total in 13 years, declined for the second straight year. So we'll have to see, but he still has a ton of weapons, still a top 10 guy. So, wow, that's a lot of quarterbacks. Woo! For about an hour and 15 minutes.
Hard.
But I thought we got through some good stuff. Anything change for you in terms of someone you like, maybe didn't like, and now you kind of do, or?
You didn't convince me on Josh Allen.
Well, hey, if I think he can put up the numbers, that's all that matters.
And did he say Patrick Mahomes would have 20 rushing touchdowns?
Yeah, that's outrageous.
That would be an NFL record, probably times 2. So there you have it, MHA owners. A lot to ingest. We appreciate you taking the time. I think next time we're going to have Aaron on. We're going to talk about some bold predictions. I think we're going to talk maybe some running backs.
Hey.
So you guys want to tune in for that. Running backs. Todd Gurley, where is he going to go? We'll tell you all about that next time on the MHA Podcast.